Picture this. You're sitting in a rural parking lot because the cell signal is about to disappear. You've got that brand new RV excitement buzzing, and you're one deposit away from pulling the trigger on the rig you think is the one. But then you phone a friend, and your friend said 4 words that felt like coal in your Christmas stocking. Do not buy that brand. Today's episode is for every future RVer who's about to fall in love with a floor plan, but forgets about the parts that actually move, shake, and break. I'm Stan Cromlish, and I'm joined by Bill and Laura Egeln, fresh into the Class A life with their new to them Tiffin Allegro Open Road they've affectionately named Gladys. We talk first-time mistakes, the Newbie death grip, why you never want to arrive at a campground after dark, and the kind of advice that doesn't just save money, but might save your weekend, possibly your marriage, maybe even both. Let's roll into this episode of the Wandering Gypsy RV Life podcast. Welcome back to the Wandering Gypsy RV Life podcast. Today, I am joined by Bill and Laura Egeln. I knew Laura from my time as the president of the Belmont Historical Society. And recently, they bought a new to them Class A motorhome. So they are joining the RV life. Bill, Laura, tell me why y'all want to join the RV life.
Well, growing up, my family spent plenty of time traveling around. A couple of family members had Winnebagos, and so it was always such a fun, positive thing that I remember from being a kid. And now that we're empty nesters, we want to do a little bit more traveling, see a little bit more things. And so I convinced Bill to maybe think about doing this. He's definitely more of an off-grid kind of camper. I've never been invited to join him on those adventures, which is fine by me. So we went and started looking and thought we might go with a travel trailer or the Class B camper van, and it just wasn't going to be good enough.
So I do have an edit to this.
Okay.
You were invited once, and I cannot tell stories because I don't want to embarrass you.
Well, thanks. That is true. I did go, yes, with you one time, and that was the end of that. Yes.
So I remember back in the summer or late or fall, you calling me and said, we just went on a trip in a Class C motorhome, and we're thinking about getting a Class C.
Yes.
So tell me about that experience, and then tell me how we came back together after probably almost 10 years.
Yeah, pretty close to it. Well, I thought, Bill had never been in a motorhome before, so we rented the Class C, and we thought we would start there because that's what I grew up using. And we rented one. We didn't go very far. Our plan was to just spend the weekend. It was in the fall, so we had our college football games to watch outside at the outside TV. We were all excited, and we learned a lot. We learned some things that we didn't want going forward, and some things that we were like, oh, wait, we need to make sure we pay attention to this. And so then we took that information and started shopping. And in one of our many conversations, I said to Bill, when Stan and I worked together on the board, I remember since then, he started taking trips in an RV, mainly around COVID, and that he's been doing it full time. I'm going to reach out to him. And it's funny, the first conversation we had just left a dealer. We had given a deposit, and they were going to do a couple of things to it, and then we're going to come back and test drive it a couple days later because we wanted to test drive it, but they had trouble starting it and a couple of things. So we said, y'all get it ready to go. We'll come back. And we left there, and then we got you on the phone, and I won't ever forget this. We're sitting in a parking lot because we live in a very rural area, so we were going to get in a dead zone. So we stayed in the parking lot having this conversation. And if you could have seen the look on our faces when you said, do not buy that brand, we were like crushed kids on Christmas morning.
Yes, our dreams were crushed.
Yes, Stan crushed our
Temporarily,
dreams.
though.
But in all sincerity, I probably saved y'all a nightmare.
You saved us a lot of frustration,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of money, and quite possibly a marriage.
Yeah, I mean, it was the beginning
Yeah.
of many pieces of advice that you have given us
Yes.
that have helped us along the way.
Yeah.
It was probably the first and most impactful piece of advice that you gave us.
So y'all have now purchased a Tiffin Allegro Open Road 32 SA, which is the little sister to Birdie B's 34 PA.
Mm-hmm.
And we've affectionately named her Gladys.
She's Gladys. Where did you come up with that name, Bill?
I didn't. I wanted to call her Alice, but Alice was Laura's
Grandmother.
deceased grandmother, and so she didn't want to live in
Alice.
You didn't want to live in Alice. Okay.
No, I did not.
But, that begs the question. What is it about all of us naming our rigs?
I think it's funny because I wouldn't have thought to name her. But then as I'm seeing, the different communities and social media and things like that, I was like, oh yeah, I guess we probably should come up with a name. And I don't know why Gladys. It was just, of the names we threw out, it was one of the only ones that neither of us had I'm not sure about that one.
Right. So are y'all fans of Gladys Knight and the Pips, the music group?
I'm not a big music person. He is. But.
like the music, but I don't think that's why we.
Yeah.
Right. Not why. But now that you mention it, as we expand our transportation via e-bikes and maybe a Toad, all of a sudden we have the Pips. Pip 1, Pip 2, Pip 3, maybe.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness.
So I saw you roll your eyes.
Yeah.
When he mentioned a Toad.
Yes.
So what's your aversion? I'll be honest with you. When I first did it with Rosie, I was stressed.
Yeah.
I mean, I really was stressed because you don't know if she's gonna track straight or if she's gonna do the weeble wobble. Or...
Exactly. Well, I consider myself a very defensive driver, and so I'm also a planner. So I'm always looking at the other cars, going, okay, plan A, plan B, plan C, that kind of a thing. And I think about, in this big of a rig with a Toad, it is so difficult to have those kinds of plans. But then again, I guess when you're big like this, everyone else can get over it. I just haven't built the comfort with it that he has. And since we bought the unit in another state, he flew up and drove it back. Took 2 days to get back.
So you had the opportunity to drive the rig back from Ohio to upstate South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And you probably got used to it, as I drove Birdie B on March 31st, 2023. I drove back from the Hilton Head, Beaufort, South Carolina area through Columbia and up 77, but I didn't tow my car back at that point. Because my father, in his infinite wisdom, assistant management, for all of you who know, assistant management, said, why don't we all ride down together and we follow you home so that you don't have the learning curve of 36 feet, Class A.
Plus.
And towing your car. Yes, you did it behind Bertha, your 32-foot Class C with a slide, but that 4 additional feet, it felt like I was getting out of a Yugo into a Suburban, quite frankly. I mean, or, you know, out of something small into a huge, huge vehicle. And I'm glad I did that because it really helped.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because when we rented the Class C, he was driving it, and the longer we've been married, the less of a backseat driver I am. Would you agree with that?
I had to think about that. For
Yeah,
a
there
moment.
you go. Trick question. And so I was very aware of not making comments to stress him out because he was getting used to it. It wasn't our rig. It was something we had rented. We didn't know much about it. And I'm just sitting there, and I said, I had mentioned something to him, and he said, "You're stressing me out." I'm like, "What is it I'm doing? I'm just sitting here." So it was good that he spent 2 days getting familiar with it without me just sitting there stressing him out.
And it was so the trip back was a crash course.
Mm-hmm.
I would call it more of a test without studying.
So you went in cold.
Yep.
Yep.
Didn't
And
look at the
so,
syllabus ahead of time.
so I got a lot of so when I left, so we bought it from a family in a farming community in Ohio. So I spent probably the first 50 miles driving through flat farmland.
Mm-hmm.
Wind was blowing about 30 miles an hour. Yeah, so that was really fun. So then I proceeded to get into the mountains of West Virginia,
Okay.
which was really fun. And first newbie mistake I made was on the trip planner. I wanted to avoid tunnels because I was nervous about it being narrow and having semis in this tunnel where if I even moved over 5 inches, I might scrape the side of my brand new rig.
Mm-hmm.
And so the first tunnel we got to, I went around the tunnel, but I really didn't go around the tunnel. I went up and over the tunnel about 2,000 feet and down through a mountain road on the way up and down. And so that was really fun. So I got to the bottom, pulled over, changed the directions, and said, "I'm going through tunnels." And then for the most part, the rest of the trip was okay.
Okay.
But I do have to say, when I after the first day of driving, my forearms hurt.
Yeah.
And when I was interviewing some repair people and someone that I want to have help maintain it, he said, "Ah, the newbie death grip gotcha."
Yep. Yep. I can attest to the newbie death grip because when I left April 15th, 2023 in Birdie B to go out west, yeah, it was another 60-day trip, 7,000 miles. What is, I'm kind of wondering and been wondering, why is it I bite off about 3 months worth of trip and 7,000 or 8,000 miles on the first, when you just embark on a new journey.
Right.
But it's on those trips that you really learn, because I don't know about you, but I didn't know a thing about the RV life when I started 6 years ago.
Same.
I only knew it as a passenger, and somebody else took care of all the other things. So no, and I don't get involved in a lot of the mechanics and that kind of stuff. My part is to plan the trip, the road, the accommodation.
And thank goodness for that, because I am the type that dives in head first to an ice cold pool, not knowing if it's 4 feet or 10 feet. And so
That's true.
so I'm really glad that we have a planner here.
Yeah. So you bought the rig, you brought it home, and either you or Bill or Laura one of y'all was telling me that you cut a corner too tight.
Oh, see, that's why I said for the most part,
His first
the
trip.
rest of the trip was okay.
I was not in the rig.
So it's an interesting story. Coming down 77 through West Virginia.
When you purchased.
Yeah, it was the first day of the drive, so I had one probably bit off more than I could chew.
Okay.
Not mileage wise, but the weather was different than I thought it was going to be. The mountains were a little harder to drive in. There were a lot more cars and semis on the road. So all of a sudden we stop and I look up ahead up the highway and I see these plume of black smoke coming up. And I thought, that's not good.
No.
So I sat there and kind of listened to the radio and then didn't move for about 20 minutes. So got up and made a sandwich, which was really awesome because I made my lunch and sat down and ate my lunch and watched the smoke go. And finally, after about 2.5 hours, we moved by. And it was really scary because a oil tanker truck slammed into a back of a coal truck. It made me sad going by because the cab of the tanker, the only thing that was there was the frame, the engine, and the axles.
Oh, wow.
So that was really scary. So I got to the campground late. And one of the pieces of advice Stan gave us was make sure you get to the campground when it's still light out. Thought I was going to get there when it was still light out and it was pitch black. And so I go down and I kind of get my packet because it was the late check-in and I saw the number. So I try to follow the map, but I really can't follow the map because I can't see the roads very well. And so I get down to the site and someone was in it. So I had a few choice words, and
Adjectives, some real good adjectives.
Yes. And so I went down, I had to come back up around and I said, well, I'm just going to park in another one of the bigger spots where I can fit 34 feet. And so I come up around and the campground had these cabins and they were on a point like this and I had to come around like this. Well, I didn't know how tight the turn was because it was pitch black and I didn't see that turn. If I saw it in the day, I would have never have taken it. I would have gone out a long way back around. So I cut right and all of a sudden I hear this thump.
That is never good.
Right. So I kind of get down and I park and I look and it wasn't terrible, but right at the rear passenger side rear wheel well, about a 1-inch piece of the wooden fence poked through the wheel well. Okay. Day one of owning our retirement dream.
Your retirement dream.
Yeah.
Your retirement dream.
So
that was not a fun phone call.
So
I couldn't even understand what he was saying. He was so upset.
I was screaming, yelling. I literally was in tears because I literally damaged the dream, and that was very upsetting.
So, I had a similar experience in Wyoming when I ran over a cable that was across the road and it wrapped up around the front tires of Rosie and a leveling jack on Bertha. This was, and I got to a campground at about 10:30 at night.
Whoa.
And I ended up, it was following the map and I screwed up and went straight when I should have turned left. And I had to stop, unhook the car and back up. There were big old boulders on both sides. Thankfully, I didn't hit nothing.
Wow.
And I went and found my campsite, parked Rosie pulled through the campsite, parked Rosie, figured out how I was going to back up and get situated. But there and then, I swore I would never arrive to a campground after dark. And, if I ever get hung up again, I will find a parking lot and just eat that reservation and just spend the night in the parking lot because it's well lighted. You really don't have to worry about screwing something up.
Mm-hmm. Well,
So,
and it
go
seems
ahead.
like it takes, as you plan, okay, we're going to leave at this certain time. You say, oh yeah, it's only going to take this much time to get on the road. In my short experience of doing this, because we're on our second trip, a full week this time,
Right.
is it always takes twice as long, if not longer, to get mobile.
Yes.
And so in that case, we need to start earlier each time to make sure we're getting there before dark.
So travel tip, rolling smooth travel tip is I cheated on Monday. I have a 300-mile rule that I will violate only on occasion. But if I know, like Monday, it was 465 miles from Tampa back here to Kickback, the GPS said 7.5 hours. I said, okay, that means it's going to be 10. So I pulled out of my campsite at 7 o'clock Eastern and hooked the longest. So for me, from start to finish to get out of a campsite, as long as I don't have water and sewer hooked up, it takes an hour.
Wow.
It takes an hour. And here's why. You've got to, obviously, you've got 3 slides. I've got 4. You pull the slides in. You pull up the jacks. The jacks take about 2 minutes to unspool, to come up. And then it takes about 15 minutes to hook the car up. And then you walk 4 times back and forth checking lights, checking connections. I always double, triple check. I walk around and I put my hands underneath the slides to make sure they are completely tight against the sides. For me, I've got it down to an hour. Could I do it quicker? Yes, but when you get in a hurry, you make mistakes. You miss checklists. You miss things you needed to catch. So, what have you learned, Bill, in the short time you've owned the rig?
Well, again, I don't know if it was from Rolling Smooth, your first book,
Okay.
or if it was something you said to me verbally, but you said this. It is not a matter of if, it is a matter of when something unexpected happens.
That is
Yeah.
so true. It's not an if, it's a when. It's kind of like riding bulls. It's not if you're going to get hurt. It's when, or when you get hurt.
Yes. I think the thing that I learned, I think there's a lot of things I learned along the way. I love mechanical stuff. When I was a kid, I might get in trouble for doing stuff like taking apart the toaster to see how it works. And sometimes I get it back together the way it was supposed to be, maybe not. But anyway, so that was really fun. I think it's just the complexity of the rig and the acknowledgement that you can look at it all day long, you can read, but you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
And I think that's what it is. You don't know what you don't know. And so to have a resource like you, written, verbal, text, whatever,
Right.
I would say for any newbie is essential, because if you don't have an experienced guide, it can be a long row to hoe.
Right. One of the things I have found, because I did all of this without, I started this without having what others have given me once I got connected. It's you can watch the YouTube channels, you can watch social media, but honestly, until you've experienced it, you really don't know what you don't know.
Yes.
So have you had what what have you overcome since you've started? What have you seen that kind of threw you while in your travels? I know you've only been on 2 trips in Gladys, but what has thrown you for a loop, or what has surprised you?
In below freezing weather.
Okay.
That was this trip. So when we left home,
Mm-hmm.
it was 19 degrees.
So you're outside, so that you were going to fill up your fresh water tank and couldn't.
Because I couldn't get the rig close enough to the house just to use the hose that I use at a site. So I would have had to use my my garden hose. Well, my garden hose was frozen end to end, rolled up around, the holder. And so I couldn't even get it. I even tried to bring it inside, but I would have had to wait hours for that thing to thaw. And so so that was difficult. The other thing is tire pressure.
Yes.
I checked my tires and I set the pressure, my cold pressure. And no one told me that there's cold recommendation, but what's the very, very cold recommendation, right? And so it was interesting because I said it right, but by the time he started rolling and got down the road and the temperature got up to, above freezing or whatever, I was a little worried that I was overinflated.
You were probably 125,
120, 125. And, so it was a little rougher. I mean, it wasn't terrible,
no,
but it could have been smoother. So that was a big deal. I had to adjust for for us.
right.
19 degrees is really, really cold.
It is.
Well, and the other thing is you tried to anticipate with the water, because instead of filling it up the night before, you didn't want it to freeze in the tank. So that's why you waited till the next morning.
And then I learned that
yes,
probably should have filled it up the night before.
right. And we talked about this last night. And your rig is like Birdie B, except you don't have the heat blanket on your freshwater tank.
Correct.
But you have propane just like I do, and you could have set your furnace at 50 degrees and used a little propane, and it would have kept the bays warm because it's ducted into the bays, and you probably would have been fine. I use the operative word probably.
Well, and again, as a newbie,
Right.
probably scares me because I don't know what I don't know. And so even if the opposite of probably happened, I might not even know there was something wrong until
Right.
it's too late.
Until it thawed out and you had water leak.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I was trying to anticipate, but then again, being new, I wasn't sure. And I went online, and sure enough, there's a lot of advice online, but there's also a lot of conflicting advice online. So I go online and I'm like, okay, so that all makes sense, but that makes sense. This makes sense. What do I do?
Right.
Well, and Stan, you gave us a really immeasurable piece of advice when we were going through the process, that once we find the rig that we were interested in, to hire a certified inspector.
Yes.
And not make a final purchase arrangement until the results of the inspection came back. And when we were looking at the rig that we ended up purchasing, you guided us on how to find the certified inspector. And the one that we went with was so easy to work with. He was so knowledgeable, and even a resource after the purchase, where the tire issue, Bill was texting him the night before we left, hey, well, what about and that type of thing. So it was another piece of advice that it is if we wouldn't have known you and your experience, we wouldn't have even had it inspected because we were planning on buying new, thinking, "Oh yeah, new is better," and that continues to be a return on investment that we keep realizing with each thing that we're able to reach out to the inspector about.
And detail is really important.
Right.
And so I told him, I said, yeah, it's going to be below freezing. And he's like, well, yeah. He said, then, you should be fine at the recommended temperature. I didn't tell him that it was going to be in the teens, which makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
There's a big difference between 31, 32 degrees and 20, 19, 20 degrees, particularly with air pressure,
Exactly.
So, and I'm sure if I told him it was going to be 19, he probably would have given me different advice.
Right. But, you and I talked about this yesterday, and one thing you need to do is take it over a cat scale,
Yes.
get it weighed. You've got the same brand tires I do, Toyo, and they have a reference sheet that will tell you exactly what your cold tire pressure should be for that weight
Yeah.
on either the dual axles or the front steer tires.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And on the way here,
Mhm.
I think it wasn't on the way here. It was on the way down to prior to arriving at
Okay.
Kickback. I saw several places that had, I don't know if it's a brand or whatever.
It's a brand, and it's at all the truck
Cat
stops.
stuff,
It
yeah.
is called a CAT, C-A-T
Yes.
scale.
So for sure, before we go on our big trip in the spring, definitely load her up, fill up the freshwater tank.
Fill up with gas.
Mhm.
You can leave your black and your gray empty, because as you know, if you are boondocking, what's in your freshwater tank will end up in your black and your gray.
Mhm. Yeah.
And that is, get it weighed, check the tire pressures there. The book for Toyos for Birdie B at 24,000. She is 300 pounds overweight, folks. She is 24,800, and her GVWR, gross vehicle weight rating, is 24.5. So I'm going to, while I'm here at Kickback for 6 weeks, we're going to be doing a Marie Kondo on the moving condo that is Birdie B.
Yes.
So at that weight, 95 psi on all 6 tires. And just, y'all did buy a tire pressure monitoring system. I saw the sensors on your tires. So I know that you'll be monitoring your tire pressures and tire temperatures. And one thing I do not want you to panic on is tire temperatures. You're gonna be out west in March and April, and you will see tire temperatures over 100 degrees at times. Don't panic until it gets above 120 or 125 on your tire temperatures, because you're fine up until about 150 degrees. After that, start panicking. Well, don't panic. Start just getting concerned and pull off
Find a parking lot
and figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
But so what else have you learned, and what questions do you have as newbies? Laura, what questions do you have?
For me, I want to make sure we're as efficient as possible when we are taking a trip. What we've learned so far in this practice run for the week was we did one boondocking, and then we did 2 nights at each location.
Mm-hmm.
And in this big trip we're going to take, we're going to be doing a lot of miles within 5 weeks. So we know there's going to be days on days of driving. And the idea of, pulling into a location and getting everything set up and then getting something to eat, then getting rested, and then in the morning taking a long time to do it, to get packed up, to get back on the road, adding in the breakdown and setup into how much you can do in a day. So you're reasonable about the number of miles. And so that's one of the things that I have most questions about and getting more comfortable with.
Okay. So so you're going to be leaving upstate South Carolina. Are you going to be adhering to the 300-mile-a-day rule?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So,
Unless we have there was one area that it was very difficult to find a place to stay because there's 2 rules, so it might be just a tad over 3. I think
Maybe
310,
350.
315.
yeah.
But other than
An
that,
extra,
no.
probably extra hour, maybe.
Yeah.
So one piece of it, are y'all up early or do you like to sleep in? Because for me, I'm up at 5 o'clock every day
Yeah.
anyway. And so if I know it's going to be a 350, 375 mile day for, for whatever reason, it just turns into a longer day. I back up my leaving time. I back up my leaving time to earlier so that I'm still arriving at the campground at their opening check-in time. So if you can check in at 12, I want to be there at between 12 and 1 every time. Because then you've got that 4 or 5 hours to, if you happen to have a problem, you're okay.
Right.
If you happen to be stuck on the side of the road, you're okay. It allows you some wiggle room to make sure you're not pulling into a campground at dark. That is one thing I have learned. And after that experience in Wyoming, I said never again. So when I see that I'm having a problem or see that it's a longer driving day, I will leave as the sun's coming up.
Yeah. And that's something we need to adjust to
Yes.
more because, in the past trips that we've taken before having the RV, it's always been you get in the car and you push as hard as you can to get to the next location. And so it's a different mindset.
Well, last night when we were chatting about that, you did give a great piece of advice about if you're only stopping to stay overnight to get some rest and leaving the next morning, just plug the electrical in and leave the rest of it for when you stop and you have time.
Exactly.
And we didn't think of that as an
Yeah,
option, to be
yeah,
honest. We
yeah.
thought either boondocking or be hooked up with water, sewer, and electric. So,
So
Yeah.
I stay at campgrounds every night. I don't boondock. And it's a personal preference. It's a personal preference. But for me, when I fill up my freshwater tank the night before I get ready to go, and then so knowing my water usage over 3 years, I know I can drive 4 days and not have to dump my tanks or refill my water. So if I were going from here to, say, San Antonio, like I did about this time last year, I would fill up everything. I would stop overnight twice and then get to the campground in San Antonio and hook up everything and then be good to go for the week I'm in San Antonio. So, fill up your fresh water tank. Fill up, make sure your black and your grays are empty. But just when you get there, plug in power level, put slides out, put your feet up.
So I have a question for you. As far as like when you get ready to, take off the next day. So like we're leaving in the morning.
Right.
Does it make a big difference or is there a recommendation tonight as we're, toning down the day. We've already washed the dishes and all that kind of stuff. To go ahead, undo the septic and the water so that all we are is plugged in. So in the morning, it's just unplug and go.
Just pull your slides in,
Yeah.
raise the leveling jacks, and unhook the power and go. Yes,
Okay.
that is exactly what I do.
Okay.
So when I get ready the night before, like when I was in Tampa on Sunday evening after the Tampa RV Super Show, I filled up my freshwater tank. While I was doing that, I emptied my black and my gray, put my sewer hose up. Then once I filled up my freshwater, I prepped my black tank with the clean tank formula
Mm-hmm.
and put 5 gallons of water in the black tank for prep. You prep your black tank. Never, never, never leave your black tank dry after a dump. Add water, and then on the road it will slosh around. So you prep your black tank, and that's why while you're still hooked up to water.
Yeah.
So that you're not pulling off your freshwater tank to do that. And once that's all done, cut the water off, drain your filters, put your filters up, put your water hoses up, button everything up, and then you're ready to go.
Question for you on that. So we're going to leave here in the morning.
Yep.
We're going home.
Right.
And then we're going to put Gladys in storage probably till mid-March.
Okay.
And I'll probably have some service done to her for our long trip. But from a standpoint of, so we'll add water to we'll put water in the black tank.
Put a little antifreeze in there too, because it's going to be where you are. It's going to be in the 10s and the 20s.
Yes, yeah. So the plan is to winterize her, for the long.
Theoretically, you could drain everything and run a little antifreeze through your through your pipes and all of that. And periodically go check on her.
Yes.
And if it's going to be really, really cold and you're concerned, propane is cheap insurance.
Yes.
Propane is cheap insurance. You're plugged in. You're plugged into 15 amps, which is a trickle, which will keep the batteries charged. But you can set your furnace at 50 degrees for a few days when it's going to be really cold.
Yeah. So, because I was thinking about, okay, so we bring in, and this is Newbie, right? So bring in, so unhook everything but the electrical before we leave. Then when we leave, boom, boom, boom. Still have to use the bathroom in the morning.
That's why you've got water.
That's why I've got water. So, and I'm just, again, this is just a question because I don't know. So we'll use it a little bit, whatever. Then she's going to be stored without the ability to dump for 6 weeks. We're good. Okay. So that's a great data point for me.
Just put some RV antifreeze in the black tank and the gray tank. Make sure you've run some antifreeze through your plumbing.
Yes. Yeah, I had.
You said that you had somebody train you on how to do that. Because full disclosure, folks, I have never in my entire life had to winterize an RV. So this is new information for me.
So yeah, found a great mobile tech. I'm not sure if I can mention.
You can.
RV Help.
Okay,
RV Help was great. So I searched through and looked at qualifications and everything like that. And he came out and I said, "Do you mind if I follow you?" And like every experienced RVer, technician, inspector, it's like, sure.
You're right.
I love teaching people. He says, you would think I wouldn't want to teach people because I'd want repeat business, but it's not about business. It's about helping people.
It's
Which,
about education.
yeah. So, which was really cool. So, and he looked at the rig and he said, well, I'm going to make it easier for you. So he put a T-valve in my pump.
Yep.
In the pump, so I could turn the valve, drop the hose into the antifreeze. And oh, by the way, he told me to get a clean 5-gallon bucket and put 2 gallons in there, because you don't want to get caught with an empty bottle, because then you have to try to reprime it and it's hard to get it going and all that kind of stuff. So that was a piece of advice that he gave me. So it was great. So I took copious notes, and the first time I did it, it took me about an hour, because I was, following my notes. And I think when we get back, we're supposed to get to like 10 degrees or something like that. So I'll probably pump some up in there and down the toilet into the black tank.
Remember that you've got to drain your fresh water tank, because you put water in it.
Yeah.
Remember to drain that fresh water.
Yes, and that is the first thing he did. Was he went around and he hit the freshwater tank. Then he came back around and he hit the low point drains after he opened things up. And he said, I do that because once you get going, freshwater tank's on the other side. It's really easy to forget to do it. He said, so the first thing I do is hit the freshwater tank.
Drain right there in your bay that holds the fresh water.
Yeah, so he hit that and then came back around and started the rest of the process. So that was a really good piece of advice. Yeah. So it was cool. So I did it. We got below freezing. We got into the 20s and everything seems fine now. So I'm going to do it when we get back. And before we bring her to her little storage area, storage house, actually.
Good. So going back to Laura, to what you said, the piece of advice I gave you was to hire a National RV Inspector Association RV inspector, and they are worth their weight in gold, because these guys know their stuff. They're certified, and they can help protect a buyer from buying something that, instead of offering years and years of enjoyment, offers years and years of headaches. So when I bought Birdie B, she had a full inspection. When y'all bought Gladys, y'all had a full inspection. Inspectors check for propane leaks. They check the roof for leaks. They do pressure drop tests on the propane at the various appliances. They make sure the refrigerator is cooling. They make sure your water heater is heating. If you ask them and they do fluid analysis, they will pull fluids from the engines of your motorhome. I firmly believe in getting a good quality RV inspection as a pre-buy. And if a dealer or a private citizen says they don't want you to do an inspection, walk away. I think I even
You told us that. You definitely did, and that was such great advice. And when we reached out to the inspector, and in talking to you, I was blown away that they said it would be 6 to 8 hours, because I think of it from the inside. I'm thinking, what in the world are they looking at for 6 to 8 hours? But the level of detail was just unbelievable.
I have to tell you that, I'm assuming our inspector is the inspector we use was like all of them, but I mean, even for the seller, it was, it was a really positive experience for our seller. They are really nice, honest people. When we asked them, they're like, sure. And they said, do you mind if I'm there when he inspects it, because I want to learn. And our inspector let him ask questions, and they developed a relationship
Yes.
for their next purchase.
Good.
And it was a wonderful experience.
Good. So I'm going to change topics here. I am a huge proponent of the Family RV Association and joining RV centric organizations. And I'm going to do a shameless plug for the Family RV Association right now because the RV Basics training program that was a 2.5 day seminar that walked you through all of the RV systems without RV Basics. I don't believe in the past 3 years because I started in 22. My first FRVA rally was in Tucson, Arizona in 2022. I took RV Basics. It's where I met a whole bunch of brand new friends, but I learned a ton about the RV systems. So, I'm pushing and I'm promoting the FRVA and FRVA rallies because it's a great place to get knowledge. Just like last week, I was at the Tampa Super Show. I didn't get to go to any of the seminars, but I still learned a lot from having conversations with RV techs and those types of folks. So, what is your take? I know obviously you help with the Belmont Historical Society, so you're not averse to joining civic organizations or other things like that. So, what is your take on RV? You or Bill, doesn't matter to me.
Well, we've looked at the information, and to be honest, initially we've been overwhelmed at all of the resources. And it is something we're getting ready to take a 5-week trip this spring, and it is something we will probably do before that trip. We just needed to bite off in pieces. And one of the things that I am interested in doing the RV life is connecting with other people and having that, that family, that social aspect. And so to me, that's one of the things I'm looking for. I'm already retired and Bill will be retiring shortly. And so then we will be spending more time in it. So we have made ourselves a list based on this trip that we have learned that we're going to do before we do the next big trip. And that is one of the things on the list that we were going to do. We just haven't done it yet.
Done it yet. Okay. So for my listeners, if you could give them one piece of advice that has helped you and maybe one problem you avoided. So let's go with the piece of advice that helped you the most and the biggest problem you avoided by having quality resources.
Well, that's just it. Using quality resources. Like I had said in the beginning, we were crushed on that first phone call when you said, do not, because we were caught up in the floor plan, the amenity aspect of it, all of the bells and whistles, not paying attention to the fact that there's a lot of mechanical. So using resources that know what they're doing and are reputable. In my career, I was a college professor, and so research is something that is second nature to me. And good research takes time, but if you're doing research and things don't hold water or hold their weight, it means they're not reputable. And so going through that research process is so valuable because now, while we do have the bells and whistles that we didn't know we needed or were looking for, we also have a very, very dependable rig that we hope to not have too many issues with in the future, but it doesn't appear that we're on that trajectory.
Right. And know this, there will always be something that comes up. I mean, Birdie B 2 weeks ago when I was headed to Florida talked to me with an 85 volt voltmeter that I have in an outlet and said, Stan, my inverter is going. Stan, my inverter's going.
I'm talking to you.
Hey, hard-headed person, I'm talking to you. And so by the time I got hooked up at the Florida State Fairgrounds in Tampa, Florida, the inverter had completely died. And not only did she talk to me, she got my attention loud and clear, because once the inverter failed, I had no outlets in the RV at that point. They were dead because the inverter wasn't allowing pass-through voltage. So last week during the Tampa RV Super Show, Party B got a brand new inverter. Those things happen, folks. It is a moving earthquake going down the road. So, Bill, what piece of advice did you get? And what problem did that advice help you avoid?
Well, my first question is, do you want the whole list or just the top 10?
Top 10.
No,
10.
just kidding. No, there is a huge list that I could go through. I think, and they're all it's all extremely important. I guess the first one is the travel time. That the 300 miles, 6 to 8 hours of driving, whatever, is just critical. And then clearly I learned getting there before dark.
Right.
But the other thing for this, so that's that. But the other thing that is up there is tires.
Right.
Just because, so we bought a immaculately cared for, climate controlled, stored,
baby.
I think we had 11 or 12,000 miles on the tires.
Okay.
But the tires had aged out. Who knew?
Right.
Just because you don't have a lot of miles and you have a ton of tread doesn't necessarily mean your tires are safe.
That is so true.
So that was the piece of advice that probably helped avoid disaster, combined with the TPMS. TPMS, is a game changer for me.
Yeah.
So I would say that, kind of combined that, I think would have helped avert disaster.
Cool.
I do have a funny story though that didn't require advice.
Oh boy.
So we were hooked the Stinky Slinky up. I told you this last night, and went to drain, and then the next, or before I forget when it was, but went to drain the black tank, and nothing came out. I was like, oh no, what am I gonna do? Whatever. And so I spent probably an hour looking at it and everything like that. And so I finally said, well, I guess I'll just, maybe I'm clogged or whatever. So I went to unhook it, and I unhook it, and bloop, not a lot, but enough to cover my thank goodness I was wearing latex gloves. Although, sometimes I don't. You said you don't always use them. But
that is personal preference.
Yes. Yeah.
It depends on how averse, I grew up in the 70s dating myself, but, we were kicked outside, played in the mud.
It wasn't kicked outside. That was a privilege. We just got to hang out, right?
So
Don't
here's
come
the
back
thing.
until dinner time.
Well, my thing is if you look at my fingernails, I chew my fingernails. So I can't guarantee that after I'm up under there, I won't stick my fingers in my mouth before I wash my hands. So I'm like,
hey,
but
I don't worry about it, because there's always something out there that can kill you.
Yep. So it turned out that the little plugs on each end of this, I forgot to unhook the one that went up in there. So luckily when I took it off, I had already closed the valves.
Smart man.
So it was only a little, but cleaning out that wet bay
is a Pain in the
because
butt.
because there was, there was things in there that I had to clean that, and it was a beautiful campground, and here I am spraying it out onto
You're probably using your outdoor
Your
shower.
shower.
To do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amen. Yep.
So
Yep.
anyway,
So I don't put the plugs in for that very reason, because I am the world's worst at forgetting to undo something like that. World's worst.
I don't. I don't see. I don't know why, other than I do it just because it's only just because they're there, and chances are I'm going to lose one in probably in another couple weeks anyway, so it doesn't matter.
So funny story from last week, and confession time, folks.
Here we are.
Here we are, confession time. Pull the lever on the black tank, the water starts flowing. Then I notice that my 18-foot stinky slinky sprung a leak. So thankfully it was over the drain. It was at the drain area, and it just drained into the neighboring sewer connection. But after 5 years, last week I had to throw away 2 sewer hoses that had been 25,000 miles. But so if you've got a stinky slinky story, please feel free to put it in the comments.
You're in good company.
You're in good company.
Yep. Newbie experience, right? It's
Right.
gonna happen. When.
It's when. It's when. I mean, it is the RV life, and this is a G-rated show. But when Bertie B got sideswiped, and one of the bystanders walked up and said, "Why aren't you pitching a fit?" I looked at this person and I said, "It's the RV life. Stuff happens." And I probably didn't use the word stuff at the time, but it truly is. Things happen in this life. Truthfully, it's not if, it's when, but you can set yourself up for success by not panicking. Everything will be okay, and everything is fixable. Know that. Any piece of advice for my listeners?
Make good choices.
And what do you mean by make good choices?
Use good resources. Use good resources.
Okay.
Just recognize that you don't know everything.
Yeah.
And you might not be able to figure everything out, so don't be afraid to use the resources. I love to figure out things on my own, and but
but he's also married, so
it creates risk. It does create risk.
It does. It does. So, where are your manuals in your coach?
They are in a binder that's about this thick.
Have you read them yet?
Yes. In
we
fact,
actually had them out today.
I had my slide manual out today.
Okay.
I had my heating and air conditioning manual out today.
We had the central vac manual.
I had the central vac manual out today.
That working today, didn't
we?
Yeah,
Did,
and then the stereo manual out today, because I'm still trying to figure out how to. I'm still trying to figure out how to get all the speakers going while I'm
from the TV.
No, cranking tunes.
Tunes. Okay.
Okay. Which we're gonna do when we cook dinner tonight. Oh, by the way, chicken piccata. Sorry.
Amen. 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 But no, I read that I was supposed to be able to put the TV sound through the speakers, but I've never figured it out.
I'm working on that, because we're supposed to have surround sound, and I can't tell if the subwoofer's working or not, but I'm gonna have to do that at some point when my lovely wife isn't there, because I'm gonna.
I don't like surround sound,
so I'm gonna have to turn it up a little bit to see. I want to. I'm gonna have to feel the subwoofer.
All right. Well, if you want, we can wrap this up.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
One of the things that we do have that the previous owners gave us, which has been a godsend, and we're going to revise as we go forward, is a checklist. When you get into camp, these are the things you do in this order. When you're leaving camp, these are the things you do in this order, and that has been invaluable.
Run a checklist, folks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
There is a YouTube video out there from me where I missed one of my checklist things and had a problem with a slide. So, yes, the checklist is your friend. Any last thoughts, guys?
Just take your time and enjoy the ride.
Amen.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining this episode of the Wandering Gypsy RV Life podcast, coming to you from Birdie B at beautiful Kickback Ranch and Event Center.